Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up. Light up.
Light up. Light up. Light up. Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Many thanks, Simon, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Alan, and we're about halfway through our conference now, and I think you'll agree it's going really well. I've been dipping in and out of some of the various talks, and personally, I'm really enjoying listening to the speakers and gaining knowledge I didn't have before. Now, the main theme of this conference is Light Up, and the aim is to focus light on technology, but also to have all of you here who are watching, attending, to focus on technology and to do something for good. And by donating today, you're doing good and helping to light up the world for many folk who are in need and less privileged than us. The word privilege is extremely interesting, as it's always based on a comparison. I'm privileged in comparison to another person, or we could say that another person is more privileged than ourselves. Someone living in one country has more privilege than those living in another, etc. But regardless of this, one thing always holds true for me, and that's that in the tech community, of which I'm sure everyone here today is attending, is involved in one way or another, it's really a very privileged industry to be part of. It's one of the few sectors that continuously experiences growth, and where if you work hard, you really can make a successful and enjoyable career. And the thing is that many people around the world don't have this privilege, and the effect of the current epidemic on those people is dramatic and frankly life-changing. It's therefore beholding on each and every one of us to ensure that we can do what we can to spread our good fortune and to use the privilege that we have for good, passing on knowledge, helping community, and most importantly, helping those in need. So I thank you so much for attending today, and I thank you very much for your donations. They will make a difference and they will save lives. Today I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence, what it is, and how we can use it for good. This is not simply just another talk about the magic of AI, but here I'm going to give you the fundamentals that you need to be finally able to start AI and machine learning in production environments. It's the base knowledge that everybody misses. So before we get started, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm the very, very handsome chap currently beaming out from your screen. By trade, I'm an engineer, which means that I'm obsessed with understanding how things work and making things. I'm the CTO of a company called The DataWorks, and we're doing some really exciting and cool stuff with big data and machine learning. My most prized award is the one that I've received from CSharpCorner from being a most valued professional member of the technical community. The CSharpCorner community, it's not simply online, it's also offline, and in a very serious way. This incredible community of people organize local meetups, they promote technology, they're doing good, and they spread and promote diversity and inclusion and have millions of members worldwide for very good reason. I strongly encourage you, every single one of you here today, to encourage and consider giving back to your local tech community. It's not difficult. Start by answering some questions, maybe do it online, write an article, and consider sharing some of your knowledge with fellow techies at local or virtual meetups or conferences. The biggest message that CSharpCorner community gives is that everybody is welcome, and knowledge must be shared for the good of everybody. Fly away! Okay then, let's get down to business. So today I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence, what it is and how we can use it for good. This is not simply another talk about the magic of AI. This is going to give you a crash course in the fundamentals that you need to be finally able to start understanding what AI is and what it isn't, and how to identify the problems that you can solve in a practical manner. Far too often folk think that AI is not for them and it's only for folk who are crazy clever. Well, I'm here today to tell you that that's not the case, and we're going to start looking at that shortly. Our agenda for this talk is going to cover 4 main points. First of all, we look at what AI is and how does it compare actually to this other thing called machine learning. Are they the same thing, that they're used interchangeably? It's quite strange. Then we're going to look at the skills that you need to use AI in your everyday work. After that, we'll examine tools and technologies that are available to us in AI. And then finally, we look briefly at how we can identify how we can use AI to make a practical difference in the world itself. The first topic we're going to cover is AI versus machine learning. AI, right. So now that we're finished looking at this, the scary thoughts of what AI might be, let's get looking at the differences. Now, one of the things that I'm often asked by both business folk and engineers who are not aware, that is, what's the difference between AI and machine learning? And I think this tweet by Matt Veliso kind of tells a story. It says, well, look, the difference between machine learning and AI is that AI is written in PowerPoint and machine learning is written in Python. It's quite a humorous way of looking at it. But from a practical point of view, this really actually is the case. AI is the top level of the subject. So in the same way that software engineering is a subset of computer science, well, machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. AI operates at a higher level of abstraction, and it's about trying to make machines think, reason, and act for themselves independently, and normally brings a lot of different technologies together. Machine learning, on the other hand, which is where the real guts of stuff happens, is generally quite specific in what it's trying to achieve and the problem that it attempts to solve. The first big thing that you need to know is that you don't need a PhD to work with AI or to understand it. It really is not rocket science. So let's walk through an example of that. I'm not a math guy, and when I looked at this equation, or this math thing, this madness, first of all, my brain went into all these multiple flips, right? And there's not a hope that I can understand this. But actually, it's just a language like any other, and we as developers and engineers, we work with languages, right? So once it's translated that into something our brains can cope with, it's actually not that difficult at all. Now, what we're looking at here is a symbolic representation of logic. It's a method for doing something, a method for working through a series of actions that will describe a particular outcome. This particular algorithm is one used for anomaly detection. In machine learning, simply, it tells us the average distance between a data value and its average. Some of the practical uses, and we're all about practical here today, of anomaly detection would be, say, identifying credit card purchases that aren't within your normal pattern of purchase behavior. Finding signals, say, in the measurements from a factory production line that would indicate that some mechanical part is out of sync and needs correction, or maybe monitoring the GPS location signals from mobile phones on an average traffic day that would show deviation from the normal and would indicate maybe a road traffic accident. So these are just three very simple examples of how this particular algorithm could be used, and it's very popular and used in millions of different solutions, from banks to farms to hospitals, all over the world every single day, and you don't even notice it. So my point here is that if we forget about the crazy mind-bending math symbols for a moment, and the hieroglyphics, and instead we focus on practical use cases and what the symbols actually translate to, well, then suddenly it's quite accessible, this AI thing. And really, it's nothing more than a few simple back-of-the-napkin calculations. So when we translate this math algorithm into plain old language, we can understand and it makes sense. So let's walk through the steps to see what's actually going on here. The steps or actions that this method is telling us to do and to take is to find the outlier, is these steps as follows. Number one, we find the average value between the data points. Number two, we identify the difference between each data value and the average we've just worked out. We then take the absolute value of each of the differences, and then we find the average of those differences. The output from this series of actions will allow us to identify what values from a series or a set of data points are hanging out around the edges of the overall average. In other words, the outliers are the anomalies. So now we can see that that's actually not quite so scary. Let's see what kinds of problems we can solve in AI and machine learning, because that's one of the things about computer science and about AI, is that it's all about patterns. And if we work down to be able to recognize what patterns we can solve, well, then we can understand how to put them together just like a jigsaw puzzle. The big secret of machine learning is that there's really only 5 core questions that we ask. And the reality of machine learning is that while sometimes we only use one algorithm to solve a problem, More often than not, it's actually a combination of different methods that allow us to use the real power and promise of AI. So let's look at these 5 core questions, what they are and what do they mean. First of all, we have classification. This tells us if the data that we're examining is one thing or another thing. Are we looking, for example, at the picture of a cat or a dog? Does the email contain spam or not? Because this is an A or B question, we can say that this is a binary classifier. We looked at anomaly detection earlier on, and that asks the question, is there something different or out of place? This type of question is asked all the time, for example, in fraud detection and quality control. And we use this what's out of place pattern to identify when something is strange in a set of data points. The regression question allows us to look at a set of data and help us to decide the trajectory of values. So let's say, given the time of year and the current temperature and barometric pressure, what temperature will it be tomorrow? How likely is it to rain? Will the river flood? When is the monsoon going to happen? So regression looks at data from the past and then uses this to help predict into the future by attempting to automatically fill in the blanks, as it were, of the values in the future that are unknown. Clustering is generally applied to data we haven't seen before, and when we want to try and identify any patterns in the data. Given, let's say, a set of marks over a period of time in a school or university, we could group the students together into individuals who are good at science subject versus those who are good at humanities, for example. Clustering it's one of those patterns that we use when examining a piece of data for the first time, and it helps us to see if there's patterns in the data that are not obvious when scanning a table of numbers. And it's also commonly used in combination with other patterns to offer a fuller solution to a particular problem. Finally, there's this where next algorithm. And this is an area where there's a lot of focus at the moment in the AI field, and it can be extremely useful for particular questions, especially when it comes to trying to design an AI for a machine that you're trying to get to work autonomously on its own. So where do I go to next? What assumptions will I make to help me go in that particular direction? What decision should I make next? Should I go left or should I go right? Should I make a decision to buy or to sell? Should I stop the machine or start the machine? Should I slow down the machine? Should I automatically send a pager out to call the doctor? So all of these different things, these what should I do now? These are based on what are called reinforcement learning, and they're an incredibly big area of machine learning at the moment. So we've looked at the 5 core patterns or questions that we can ask in AI, data science, machine learning. And the most important thing to know at this point is that some of the most powerful machine learning solutions are generated by using a combination of one or more of these techniques. They're all together. So if you look at the competitions, let's say on Kaggle, you can see that the winning entries are frequently built on a collection of different algorithms that are connected together in a very particular way. And what this tells us is that while some machine learning models are really powerful for particular problems, in the real world, problems are actually not as clean as we might like, and frequently involve a level of complexity that requires us to package up multiple different patterns into an overall solution. So in much the same way that we were, as engineers, used to bringing together different pieces of code libraries together to solve a problem in standard software development, that kind of thing. So finding the right combination of patterns to use can take time. And this is where a very useful tool we can use is one developed by Microsoft called AutoML, and we'll have a reference to that later on in the slides. The second topic we're going to look at is what skills we need in order to be able to use machine learning to solve problems. As I said earlier, you don't need to have a PhD to get involved in AI or machine learning. If you can build a web page, I'm convinced that you can implement a good, solid machine learning solution. I really am. So among engineers working in data science, AI, and machine learning, one of the most common languages to use is Python. Now, while it may have been seen over the years as a slow language because it's runtime and it's done on the fly, in practice, this doesn't matter anymore due to the improvements in computer hardware, and indeed the major improvements that have been made to the language itself over the years, especially in the most recent versions. Python is extremely easy to use, it's simple to learn, and has a vast number of open source libraries ready for you to investigate. In addition also to having some basic Python knowledge, some common libraries that you should get to know and include in your skill set for AI and machine learning are Pandas, which is one of the most favored and used data science libraries available, and also scikit-learn. The basic skills that you're going to need to get started will include a starting knowledge at least of Python, and really if you've got a good grasp of any other language, well, then it should be no problem to you to pick it up easily. An understanding of database basics. This is because frequently the data that you're going to deal with will be in databases, and you need to access those and manipulate data in databases as part of your machine learning pipeline. And the last thing that I believe is very important in this is an Azure developer account. Now, I'm biased, right? And I do prefer the Microsoft tooling and cloud environment. However, the point here is that it's important that you've done at least some exploratory work in using Azure or a similar cloud environment. And the reason is that when you come to deploy your machine learning solutions at scale, or even use some specialized high-powered machine resources, you'll find that turning to cloud resources is very, very efficient and cost-effective versus having to buy all this expensive equipment to have yourself locally on your own local workstation. So the third topic I'm going to talk about here is tools and technologies. We've already talked about languages and libraries, so here we're going to focus on the bits that will make you productive in your machine learning adventure. One of the very starting places that I know for ramping up your tooling is Microsoft Visual Studio Code. I use it every single day. It's an amazing tool and it gets better with each and every release. Visual Studio Code is available on all of the major platforms for Microsoft Windows, for Apple Macintosh and Linux. And it's updated frequently. And at this stage, there are absolutely thousands of different extensions that both Microsoft provide and other folk have provided that are extremely useful for all sorts of development, not just machine learning and AI. Once you have Visual Studio itself installed, the next step you need to do is install the Python extensions. Please ensure that you use version 3 and upwards, because that's where the best machine learning fun is going to be had at the moment. And as you can see there from the screen, the download location for that is just at code.visualstudio.com/download. And Python, for example, it's incredibly popular, and as you can see, the Microsoft extension there for it has actually downloaded over 12.5 million times, which is pretty awesome. And it's free, and we like free, right? So once you've installed up Python, your next step should be to install the Azure Machine Learning extension. This is a bit of magic that enables very tight integration between Visual Studio Code and the very powerful AI resources that are available to you on Azure itself. Again, you can see there it's been downloaded quite frequently, and it can be got in the marketplace or inside in Visual Studio Code extensions itself. Among the other things that are in Visual Studio Code, it's got this very full integration with the Jupyter Notebook system. And if you're at all familiar with data science or machine learning, Jupyter Notebook system will either be familiar to you or you'll know of it. And the notebook system makes it extremely easy to build up machine learning projects in an iterative manner while documenting as you go. And this is a very, very important process when testing your theories and your data samples in a machine learning environment. So a really exciting feature, to me at least, about Visual Studio Code is that it has extremely tight integration with the Azure cloud itself. And you'll be amazed at the sheer amount of things that you can do from the VS Code environment, especially in relation to machine learning. One of the things about machine learning is that when you're generating models, that is the magic that joins the dots and helps make predictions, for example, that can take a lot of resources, a lot of hardware resources, and probably more than you can have in your local machine. And this is where the live connection to Azure comes in extremely handy and very useful. You can run experiments and very intensive processes remotely on Azure, but control everything directly from the VS Control code console itself. And not only can you do that, but you can also debug live code that is executing up in the cloud, and you can process vast amounts and volumes of data that you wouldn't dream or probably be capable of even storing on a local development machine. So we've looked at the tools that you can use for local machine learning development, but there's also a huge array of tools available on the Azure cloud itself. One of the most powerful is the Azure Machine Learning Studio. This is a very, very intuitively designed workbench that offers a drag and drop machine learning environment where you can build up solutions that can be easily integrated into your own production environment. And as you can see on the left, the studio offers us a broad range of features that cover data manipulation, machine learning, text analysis, image recognition, statistical functions, time series analysis, and a whole lot more. In addition to that, you don't just have to use Python. If you're maybe coming from an academic background or a scientific background, you might be more used to the OR language. So OR is solidly up there as a first-class citizen alongside Python as some of the main languages inside in Azure Machine Learning Studio as well. So right then, we're nearly at the end of this particular session. So what we're going to do is now look at how to identify projects that are good candidates for AI and machine learning, especially when you're trying to use AI for good. So the trick to identifying a good candidate for machine learning is to be able to answer a number of questions. The first one is, are there input and output measurements? The next one is, can the outputs be adjusted? And if you do adjust them, do the outputs change? Then we can ask, are there constants in the chain of the data? And can we quantitatively evaluate what's better versus what's worse? So these questions, they're asking fundamental boundary questions that machine learning needs to know to be able to operate and do its job efficiently. When thinking about a project for good, it's important to first of all try to put these boundaries around the problem you're trying to solve and to ask the fundamental questions that we have in the slide. The bottom line here is that if you can answer these questions positively, you can move on to the next step. But the questions again, just to go through them, input and output measurements. So if you're looking at a particular problem and saying, can I help AI, not can I, but can AI help with this? You want to know, what can you measure? Because if you can't measure something, well, you know, then you can't predict, you can't infer. It's very, very difficult. You have to have some kind of measurement you can work with. And when you're talking about measurements, you say, okay, are there input measurements and are there output measurements? And the reason that the two are important is that we can see from what we put in, what's the result of what comes out. If we change something that's going to be put in one side, does the output change? And that's the second question. If we adjust the input, do the outputs get changed? So those two are intrinsically linked. The next one then, again, is, are there constants in the chain? So we might say, for example, in relation to the weather, we know that the location that we're talking about is on the equator. So that's a constant in the chain that's never going to change. If we say that we're dealing with the location maybe in Dublin in Ireland, well, it's much further up north, therefore it's not going to have that steady beat of temperature of the equator. It's going to be cooler most of the time, etc. So there's constants that we can apply. And then finally, again, to focus on this one here. Can we quantitatively say, if we put in this measurement or this number and get this output here, can we define if what's gone in determines what comes out is good or bad? Is it better or worse? And if we can define those things, if we can evaluate those things, then there's a very, very strong likelihood that AI is a good match for being able to help us with this particular problem. So if the problem, as I said, that you're trying to solve can give you the measurements that we've just highlighted, you're in what we call good data shape. And the next thing you need to do is to start using your skills and the tools that we've discussed to start experimenting. Some of the tools that we've covered and we've talked about are Visual Studio Code, Microsoft AutoML, which is in the cloud, and you can use that through the Cloud Studio, and Azure ML Studio itself. I've put on some links there that are worth going to visit to check out some of these processes. So this is the end of the whirlwind tour of knowing where we can use AI and how to quantify the areas that we're going to get good wins in. And it was a lot to cover, and always there's never enough time. But before we move on and finish off the session, I'd like to draw your attention to the Microsoft AI for Good website. So the Microsoft AI for Good initiative it's a really huge, vast program that's been put together by Microsoft. And in a nutshell, what they do is they provide technology, resources, and expertise in artificial intelligence and all of its subfields to help solve some of the world's biggest problems and to do good for both humanity and our beautiful planet at the same time. The initiatives cover a number of different areas, including AI for Earth. And this project not only provides resources, but also awards grants to support projects that are focused on the way that we monitor, manage, and use our natural resources. AI for COVID-19 and for AI for Health are similar programs, and they mobilize AI for health initiatives working to find a solution to the current pandemic and to other serious health issues that are facing people the world over. AI for Good also focuses on other areas such as AI for accessibility, AI for humanitarian aid, and AI for cultural heritage, all of which are extremely important. You should take some time and go through this website and learn from the projects and ideas already up there. Each one in itself is an amazing read of innovation and good being done. So once you've seen what's being done on this large level by Microsoft, for example, you can get some good ideas of what's possible, and that in turn should help you to steer your own thoughts and ideas for an AI project for good that you can get started up yourself, or one that you can get involved with. So the last thing I want to leave you with is some resources that you can use for learning how to use AI for good. And there's two places that I urge you to look. The first are the resources made available by Microsoft through Channel 9, which is an extraordinary resource. And the second is the AI Business School. And this one in particular is useful for helping you to get your business organized and ready for AI. And one of the problems that we have in AI is actually helping the business folk understand where we can improve their processes and help make savings and help add innovation and customer value and everything else in the business and the commercial environment. And going through this AI Business School for ourselves is good, but it's even better for the business folk to point them towards this. And hopefully as well, looking at some of the learning paths and the use cases in this, it'll also give you some indications of where we can use AI for good as well. So finally, we're at the end of the session. I hope it's been both enjoyable and educational in equal measure for you good folk who've been watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to connect with me on Twitter. My Twitter address is down there at the bottom. It's @DataBytesAI. I know you're going to join me now in thanking the incredible team at CSharpCorner for giving me the opportunity to speak to you here today, and of course, for the incredible work that they do day after day to support our tech communities the world over. Before I say goodbye, I want to remind you that this is an event that we're trying to help and support UNICEF in the battle against COVID. If you haven't done so already, please go and click that donate button and help them to light up the darkness and help bring light where it's needed to everybody in these strange times, because everybody needs help. So keep indoors, my friends, and keep well. That's all, Simon. Back to you, good sir. Thanks for keeping everything running so smoothly as always. Bye-bye now, everyone.
Hello everyone, welcome to Lightup Virtual Conference. We have Simon here. Hi Simon.
That was an amazing session put up by Alan. I think he covered from the very basics of what's machine learning, started with the difference. He also shared about the benefits of Azure machine learning, scikit-learn, Python, the extensions of Python on VS Code, how you can get started. So really amazing session put up by Alan, who recently got Microsoft Regional Director. And Manpreet, I think we have a very exciting session coming forward.
Right. So thank you, Alan. Thank you for giving up this video. We know it's 5 a.m. in the morning. It was difficult for you. Even recording this is so difficult for you, but still you did it. Thank you so much. And let's go with, we have Richard, the CTO of Microsoft, with us. Richard, are you there with us?
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up. Light up. Light up. Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Light up.
Hello, Richard.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, good morning to you.
Hey, Manpreet. Hi, Simon. How are you guys doing? Can you guys hear me well?
We can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Very good.
How are you doing, Richard?
I'm doing well, learning all these new tricks about how to come in live to a virtual audience from my home office.
Thank you. And thank you to you to join us, of course. Very important for you to be here with us and giving you so important and precious time. Thank you for that, and supporting UNICEF in a way with Lightup. Thank you for that. Like 30 minutes from you is a big thing for us. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for organizing this very meaningful event. I think the work that the Lightup team and especially Manpreet, yourself, and Simon in support of UNICEF in this unprecedented times is really something that we all need to rally around. So really appreciate you for the invitation to be here to share with the audience.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much. And Richard, the floor is yours. Please go ahead. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. And first of all, a warm welcome to this Lightup Virtual Conference. And I want to again thank the organizers for putting on such a great show. There's a lot of meaningful tracks as I look through the agendas from our community of Microsoft MVPs and very knowledgeable people all around the world that's been contributing to this conference. So it's really amazing. Now, what I want to do is to hopped onto the screen, and I hope I'm going to get this correct. That's the one. Oops. Can everybody see the screen? Is this okay?
Yeah, it's perfect, Richard.
Okay, very good. I guess we all learn new things every day. So what I'm going to take probably the next 25 minutes to really talk about is what Microsoft is doing around responding to the global pandemic that we're facing today and over the last couple of months. I'm sure everybody in this audience, in one way or another, is affected by this global pandemic. And it's truly heartwarming to see how the community is coming together to in this true test of the humankind on how do we tackle this particular pandemic itself. It takes an all hands on deck approach, whether governments are doing it, private organizations are doing it, small businesses are especially hard hit as well. And as economies around the world try to reopen again, we are experiencing another waves of infections, and you can see just the severity of it. And we in the technology community has a role to play in terms of looking at how we can leverage technology to empower people and organizations for them to be able to tackle this pandemic, be it changes to their personal lives or the organizations that they work in, and contribute in a very meaningful way for us to alleviate the pains and suffering that we're seeing around the world. What I'll do is, let me just make sure I'm highlighting the slide correctly, is to acknowledge that these are definitely unprecedented times. It's something that many have called it a black swan event. It's something that a lot of scenario plannings that takes place around corporate organizations may not have anticipated in such a drastic scale. And I think we need to be empathetic to all the people and organizations that's going through this disruptions in their daily lives, as well as whether kids in school, as well as us at work, for example. Now, at Microsoft, these are some of the things that we have been observing, and we have had many, many interactions with organizations, customers, partners, individuals, governments all around the world. And we can see that not just only the shift to remote work, but also the evolving security landscape that is also plaguing a lot of different organizations and countries around the world. And I think this also lets us to think about how we as a technology company, we can rally ourselves together to really think about how in each of the communities that we served in, how we can help the organizations for them to overcome this real challenge that is facing us. And this is not a short-term challenge, as many of y'all would have experienced. This is probably my 4th month that is working from home right now. And thanks to a lot of the Microsoft's capabilities and technology, I've been able to do this in a very smooth manner. But there are still many organizations out there that are still struggling through this. And as a community, we have a obligation and a duty to help them through this unprecedented times. Now, this is how, when we think about leaning into Microsoft's mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, And upon the onset of this global pandemic itself, we ask ourselves, how can we help? What are all the things that we can do? Whether is it a school that is suddenly going into a remote learning scenario, or a hospital who is trying to protect their frontline workers, what are all the things that we can bring to bear to be able to assist them? One of the things I'll just like to share over here, you see on the slide, that's a QR code. I'm sure many of you are sitting at home or sitting somewhere with your laptop. You probably have your smartphone next to you. You can use this to scan the QR code to get a sense of some of the work that Microsoft is pulling together to help organizations in many of their endeavors to overcome COVID-19. Now, as I go along the presentation itself, there will be some of these QR codes. So I'm hopefully taking this time to share the content with you. And you have a sense of some of the things that Microsoft is undertaking all around the world. The previous speaker spoke about AI for Good, the Microsoft campaign. It's very close and dear to my heart here in Singapore. I run the AI for Good plan for Singapore itself. And one of the examples I like to do is to point out an example here where we have taken one of the programs, AI for Health, and really work with researchers, academias, scientists around the world to see how we can help them as they think about finding that viable vaccine, the next therapeutics to be able to help with COVID-19 patients recover faster, and all the analysis that needs to take place. So this is some of the work that we are doing, and on this site itself, you get a sense of what are all the different initiatives that Microsoft is putting together to help with that. One of the examples I like to point out is this project called Folding at Home. I'll roll the video and hopefully the audio comes through, and you get a sense of what this project that Microsoft is supporting, it's all about.
When I was 8 years old, I had the unfortunate experience of losing most of my vision due to macular degeneration. One of the things that drew me to studying protein dynamics is that it's something that nobody can see. That really levels the playing field for me. If we can understand how proteins fold, then we should also be able to understand how they misfold in Alzheimer's disease or how they malfunction in cancer. Folding at Home is basically a big computer cluster where people around the world volunteer to run simulations for us and send the data back to our servers. We can take problems that would have taken 500 years to complete on a single desktop and start solving them within a matter of 6 months.
It feels amazing that an ordinary person like me can help experts hopefully cure illnesses that are incurable today.
With the current immediacy of the pandemic, we brought the whole thing to bear on COVID-19. So over the last 2 months, we've gone from having around 30,000 to 4 million devices running Folding at Home. And Microsoft has been partnering with us as we scale up in such a short period of time. GitHub started running our client on some of their hardware, and we're making use of Azure resources to run some of the large simulations. We've already uncovered a couple of the novel binding sites in the virus and are starting to delve into the structural details that provide new means to target these proteins.
So hopefully that gives you a sense of some of the work that we are supporting around the world in terms of the fight with COVID-19. Now, I'll switch gears a little bit to talk about the evolving cybersecurity landscape. Unfortunately, as the world deals with this pandemic, criminal organizations around the world are taking advantage of this particular situation and targeting organizations that may have weaknesses in their security defenses and cybersecurity hygiene itself. And what we're seeing is also a very huge amount of increase in terms of COVID-19 related attacks. And these can come in the forms of phishing campaigns, all the while to malware payloads being delivered through email itself. what we saw was this huge amount of threat intelligence that we see in our global networks. And what we decided to do was to then open source this threat intelligence to organizations around the world so that they may be able to look at some of this threat intelligence and be able to adequately protect themselves. Again, on the slide itself, there's a QR code over there. You can scan it, and in that website, it will have a detailed description of what are the steps that organizations can take to leverage this open source threat intelligence itself. Now, I will just also switch gears to another very important topic. Just literally just about 2 weeks ago, we've launched a very global scale initiatives around skills. As you've seen in the previous video before I came on, there are many people around the world that have their jobs impacted by this global pandemic. And this is a very important thing to us, that as a technology company, we see that we have an opportunity, but also a duty and obligation to be able to help these people to be able to get back on their feet, reskill during this time perhaps, and be able to lend themselves new digital skills that will be relevant in the coming months and years as we tackle this global pandemic. If you look at, so we brought together the powers of Microsoft Learn, as well as LinkedIn Learning and GitHub Learning as well, and bring together some of these capabilities to help people to look for meaningful jobs, skill up themselves as they navigate through this pandemic itself. Some of the information is available on this particular website, and I think it's really exciting to see the amount of work that we put into this particular initiative. We are still in early days, but in each of the every countries, I know that myself and a lot of my counterparts are engaging with the organizations to make sure that we help the local populations to reskill and find meaningful opportunities as they navigate through this pandemic itself. So I encourage you to take a look at the site itself, and therein lies some of the information specifically for digital skilling, as well as looking at some of the opportunities through our LinkedIn network itself. Now, as we are all familiar, we have all been turned into working from home most of the time, and obviously, in the last couple of months, many of you all have been through Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams meeting, WhatsApp, WebEx, or any of these conferencing tools. And Microsoft is definitely not sitting on its hands to innovate and help organizations and people to connect more over a virtual environment itself. And you have no clue how much time I'm spending on Microsoft Teams today, and I'm really proud that of our Microsoft Teams team for all the innovations that they are bringing into this collaboration tool as part of our Microsoft 365 suite itself. And just in the last week, we have released and we have announced a whole new set of features and capabilities that is really transforming and really transformative in the way how organizations and people will collaborate and still build that human connection to some extent. I know that technology cannot fully take place, the human-to-human kind of connection, but we believe that some of this technology would be able to do just that little bit more, so that while we navigate through this pandemic itself, we are able to still leverage technology to form that connection itself. So again, I would encourage you to find out more. There's also some research that we've done on some of the organizational behavior and people behavior that have changed over this time, when everybody or a lot of people had to be working remotely or working from home, if their job allows them to do so. Some of us are very fortunate. We have the luxury and ability to do so. Not so for also quite a number of people as well, whose job nature might not allow them to do so as well. So we'll try and find different ways to make sure that they are still protected and are able still to work collaboratively while they go about their daily tasks and try to resume life as close to normal as possible. But I think I want to come to the closing of my presentation, and I just want to share a little nice video that the team in Microsoft Teams have put together, and I really thought that it was really nice of the level of empathy that they've put into the design itself to let us still maintain some form of a connection and touch while we are all working virtually in the current setting. So let me just roll the video. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you for all the time and all the efforts that you put in to help our communities and the organizations that you work with to navigate through this unprecedented times. And as per always, I'd like to appeal to each and every one to also support what the Lightup Virtual Conference is doing in support of UNICEF, and really help in any way that you can to support the cause that they are driving. So thank you again, and I hope everybody stays safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you so much. Your speech was amazing and motivating for everyone here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of the class. Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right, Manpreet, so we are down to even second last keynote now.
Second last, yeah. One thing, like, what's the time now? 1 minute. Second last, oh yeah. Hiroshima Sevasta. Hiroshima Sevasta.
Well, my balance lights are the